Hi class, this is number 7 on chapter 8 practice test. We wish to estimate what percent of adults in the U.S. who make less than $30,000 per year have internet access. Out of 200 adults sampled, 164 have internet access. Based on this construct a 90% confidence interval for the population proportion of adults U.S. who make less than 30,000 per year and have internet access. Okay, so there's a lot of words that I'm just like, I kind of ignore. It's just like too much for me. Like this whole we wish to estimate the percent of adults who make less than 30,000. I don't care. You wanna estimate some percent, which is a proportion, right? They want to estimate some percent of the population that has some kind of characteristic. So I don't really, this is gonna confuse me. Like there's just extra numbers in here and whatever. Like I'm just like, you wish to estimate the percent of adults that have some kind of characteristic, right? It doesn't matter what the characteristic is really, or as far as our calculations go, right? And now they told me out of 200, so that's important, that's our N. And then 164 have internet access. They're telling us the actual number of people who have a particular characteristic of interest to us. They have the desired characteristic, this internet access. So this is our X value. And that's the same if you remember, like if to calculate the population proportion, you take the X value, the number of people with your particular characteristic of interest, desired characteristic, over the total number in your sample, and that gives you your sample proportion. And so they're giving us the X value and the N right here. That's the N, the number sampled. And then they're asking us to do a 90% confidence interval, which is, and then for the population proportion, P. So you always have to kind of ask yourself, and we don't care about those numbers. You have to ask yourself, is this a mean problem? Are they asking us to estimate the population mean, or are they asking you to do the population proportion? That's a very important question because there's 2 different calculator tests that we will be doing based on the answer to that question. So right away, because they gave me, a certain number who have a certain quality out of the total sample, I'm thinking it's proportion. They just told me, a certain amount that have a certain characteristic out of a total. And then later on, they tell us, they even make it even more clear for us that based on this, 90% construct a 90% confidence interval for the population proportion. Right? For the proportion, this is a proportion problem. So it's important that when we do our calculations, that we use the one prop int Z interval test, the one prop Z interval test. That's the one that we want. That's the at least class calculator, that's the name of it. Okay, so we don't want to do the other T interval. That's for the mean problem. Okay, so let's see how it looks like. Okay, let me share again. So let me just enter out, let me get out of it. And I go stats and I go distance plots. But you have to click on this little down arrow to open up this. But anyways, you click stats, distance plots. Oh, I'm sorry, tests. We're doing tests. And then we're gonna do one prop Z interval test. It tells us everything we need to enter. The X, the number of positive outcomes. It's the number of people who have our desired trait out of the total sampled. And then N. Now do make sure that this N number has to be a whole number. They're talking about the number of people who said yes to they have a certain trait. We can't have like 5.6 people who said yes to something, right? So you have to round that number if you, unfortunately, sometimes they'll give you the sample proportion and it doesn't equal a certain even amount of people. So sometimes you have to round that to make this work, okay? So in this problem, they go ahead and give you the X value, the 164. Which is great. And they give me the sample size. I believe it was 200. And they also give me the 90% confidence interval, which is 0.90. And then, so there is my confidence interval right there. See, the 0.775 is my lower bound, and the 0.864 is my upper bound. We are 95% confident that the true population proportion falls between these two numbers, 0.775 and 0.864. So they're literally saying that they believe the people who make less than $30,000 who have internet access is between 77% and 86% of the population. And then they have our margin of error here, and they also have our p hat. So if we would have done 164 divided by 200, we would have gotten that p hat. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, so we put that as our first answer. And let's see how many decimal places they want. Say 3 decimal places. So when we go 3 decimal places, you have to look at the 4th decimal place over and ask, is it 5 or greater? And it is not. So we just ignore the 4th decimal place and drop all 4th, 5th, and 6th decimal places. And we just put 0.775 as our first entry here. Then here with the second one, I look over the 4th decimal place and I ask, is it 5 or greater? It is. I add 1 to the 3rd decimal place, so making the 4 a 5. So it's 0.865. Okay, that's the first part of this. Then it says state the point estimate for the proportion of point estimate. That is the sample proportion, which is right here, 0.82. You could have done the number of people with the desired characteristic divided by the total number in your sample to get that calculation, but they just provide it here in class calc for you. Then, and state the margin of error, and they also just provided that. Like I said, if they do not provide the margin of error for you, you could have said, take the upper bound here, subtract the lower bound. Let me do it. The 0.865 minus 0.775, and then divide that answer. I'm going to put that in parentheses just to make sure they do it. And you take that and divide it by 2. That is a way to get the margin of error if your calculator does not provide that for you. So see this 0.045, I will be rounded to 0.45 to the 3rd decimal place. It's exactly the answer I get here, right? So our margin of error is 0.045, I believe, wasn't it? That, let's just double check before I 0.045, yeah. All right, and then they said in the very last part of this, they said, and they just want to check for understanding what is the best interpretation of this confidence interval. We are 90% confident that between 5% and 82%, 45% and 82% of adults who have in the US and who make less than have internet access, no, because it's 70. If you turn these both back into percent, it's 77.5% and 86.5%. That's not the answer. So we are at 90% confident that between 77.5 and 86, yes, that is correct. This is the answer we want. And then the last one is like 90% of adults who make less have internet access. No, that's not what we want. And we are 90% confident that exactly 82% of adults have no. We definitely want this second one here. And then so we just submit our answer and just double check all my answers here. And that's correct. That's exactly what we wanted. So remember, we just say we are 90% confident that our population proportion is between that interval. And we just say, that's how we say it. Make sure some ways they trick you is they say things like there's a 90% chance that it's in that interval. Do not use that language, chance. I mean, it's like the same concept, like it's really close, but we just don't like that terminology because the population proportion exists. It's not like a probability game, really, like it's either already in that interval or it's not in that interval. We don't say there's a chance that it's going to be, because it's already in there or already not in there. Like it's not like it's already determined. So we don't like to talk about it in the like it's not happened yet. And okay, so we just say we are 90% confident that it's between those two intervals. It just is percent. And we just restate what it was we were interested in. And that is, you know, the proportion they were interested in was 30,000 less than people make 30,000 less who have internet access. Right. So just go ahead and email me if you have any questions, and have a great day. Bye.